What's up, Titterinos? Brando here. Welcome back to the Game Addicts podcast. Today we're taking a deep dive into the original Resident Evil. This is an episode that I've wanted to do for a while, and if I can be truly honest, I'm a little nervous about it. I'm nervous about adding in what could be considered my 2 cents to a game, into a series that has been literally discussed to death. There's a lot of content out there, so I really do hope that you guys enjoy this episode, and I'll appreciate each and every one of you for listening. My first exposure to this series was right after I got my original PlayStation console. In 1998, I received my PlayStation console in October. It was like the weekend before Halloween, if that makes any sense to you guys. My local hometown would always do the trick-or-treat night on the Friday before Halloween. So it literally could have been Halloween for all I know. But I was able to get it the Friday before. We had it on layaway, of all things, right? And, because, while I grew up pretty middle class, we couldn't just go out and buy everything I wanted, even though I was an only child and pretty spoiled. But I really wanted the PlayStation. All my friends had N64s, and I got to experience a PlayStation one time, and that was enough to tell me that's the direction I wanted to go in for my next level of gaming. And I got my PlayStation, and the game that I got with it was not Resident Evil. It was like a wrestling game. But I got a demo disc with it. And on that demo disc was a trailer for Resident Evil 2. And I was stunned. Blown away. Now, number one, I'm discovering a whole new level of games. Of course, a friend of mine had the N64 for a year, if not longer at this point. Shortly after the N64 came out, they got it. They got Mario, and then they just got a whole bunch of games. They got way more games than I ever got. But for this, one of the things that I did a lot when I got new games was I rented games. Go to the local video rental store and pick out a PlayStation game for the weekend, or before that it was Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis. And so the very first game I ever rented was Resident Evil 2. And I remember putting the disc in and starting up that first area, and just I was surrounded by zombies and didn't know what to do. I don't even remember how far I made it. I know I didn't make it to the police station the first time. But I was so blown away by that game. But come to Christmas, I had to give a list of stuff that I wanted to get for Christmas. And what I got was, I believe I got a copy of Need for Speed 3. And I got some money. And I'm like, I want to go buy Resident Evil 2. That'd be great. Well, I didn't have enough money for Resident Evil 2. Bummer, right? But while I'm sitting there at the Walmart video game section and I'm looking at the games, I see a copy of Resident Evil, the original, and it was this version, the greatest hits, $20. Hey, I just happen to have $20, maybe a little bit more, but I want to say the original was like $40 or $50. Didn't have enough for two, but I had enough for this one. And in my mind, I'm like, you know what? I actually haven't played that one. I played the second one. And I fell in love with it for that weekend I had it. I didn't beat it, by the way, RE2. I got into the PlayStation, and I never got out of the PlayStation. But I decided to go and check back to the original. Start it from the beginning of the story. That's where all stories should begin, right? That began a fandom that has lasted until this very day. It's been challenged, as I'm sure some of you who are listening to this can probably say. Not every single game has been a knockout of the park. But the fact that the series is still going on, we are now into 2021. We have a brand new game coming out. The 8th installment. We have had a series of movies that, for better or worse, don't follow the original guideline of the games. They did their own thing. But now they're rebooting the movies. We have a series coming to Netflix. We've had novelizations. I have all those. No, but this series has become a cornerstone of video games. And I'm sorry if you can hear I'm sorry if you can hear my kid screaming out there. He is hungry. If you listen to the prior episode, you'll know that I am now podcasting in the bedroom. And there's only so much I can do to avoid a baby cry or siblings roughhousing. So, do apologize for that. But no, when I fired up the original Resident Evil, it was instantly different. Different, probably like the nicest way that I could say it, because it was definitely a step down. But the game originally came out in 1996, so I'm playing it now a full 2 years after it had come out, going into 3, and the graphics were similar but a little bit worse. The voice acting was so bad. So bad. They sound like actors who couldn't get work in infomercials, man. What they decided to do, of course, when this game came out, what they were doing were a lot of full motion videos with actors, real actors, and trying to make it feel like on a higher scale. And a lot of the early games in that era of CD-based games, probably from like 94 through 96, did things like this. And if I got to say that intro video to RE1 is probably one of the best examples of how you can do it effectively, because even though it looks bad and it is D-movie quality, it's not that bad for a game, though. The fact that they were able to put that together, but they had to use the same actors for the voice actors, and that's where we got that quality from. When the game came out, originally it came out in this big box style, which I have my copy. My copy's a little bit frayed. The little cardboard wants to come off the box, but that cover art, I really dig it, especially with the overlay of like spiders in some sort of insects, or you can even see faces of like zombies and stuff on it. To open it up, of course, the manual is freaking huge. There's a little styrofoam thing here to help keep the game in place. But what I really dig about this is the case. On the inside case, the inner artwork features the lab where the tyrant is at the end, with the busted shell. Actually, one side is, I just noticed, man, that's the first time I'm noticing this. One side is the lab, probably where they keep, that doesn't look like tyrant, it looks like hunters. But the other side is like a shot from the mansion, the broken window, bloody walls and door, and a hole in the ground. Same thing, so really neat there. The manual, pretty big size manual here. Advertisements for the guide and whatnot. Something that I miss in games are manuals, for sure. But the original version came out in '96, as I said. There are multiple versions of this game. There was a Sega Saturn port of the game that features like a battle mode. Of course, as I said, I got the Greatest Hits edition, but there was also the Black Label edition of the Director's Cut, which it was supposed to feature the uncensored version, because the original version was censored in the U.S. Stuff like smoking a cigarette or something like that was taken out, and also like some, like the scene where in the opening where they pull up the hand and you see it's like the hand has been amputated or removed forcibly by whatever creatures lurk outside. But this one, this version did come with a demo of Resident Evil 2, and it is not it is a demo of the finalized game. We never got a demo of the 1.5 or the unfinished 2. That was scrapped. But then the Greatest Hits version is the DualShock version of the game. Now, what was different about the Director's Cut, other than it was supposedly supposed to have been uncensored, but it wasn't? They added in arrange mode where you got new outfits. They moved items around. You have different camera angles, and then they have a beginner mode and like an easy mode type of deal as well. But the original game, what I really like about the game is even for the PS1 version, establishing a level of suspense or tension. And that's something that following games in the series would do very well as well. Because, it's the soundtrack. It is, you never know what's coming on the corner. There are some jump scares. You never know what's going to be behind the door, because this series introduced a way that the next room loaded. It would be like a blank screen with just a door, and it would open, and you'd just be like, you'd have tension about what was behind that door. And that is something that, as a kid, now obviously, as I had already said, the original was obviously to some extent it felt dated compared to 2. And after playing the second one, this one immediately didn't feel as tense. However, those dogs jumping through the window when I first played, that made me pee a little. But something that they really did, I liked how you had to traverse the entire mansion to progress, and it was like you couldn't go here, but you could go here. You had to walk all over. So there's like a lot of backtracking involved, and then you had to use your inventory wisely. What do you take with you? A gun and some ammo. You get ink ribbon. I remember like as a kid always carrying ink ribbon with me, and I'm like, I grew to realize that's kind of dumb, because most of the times when you have a typewriter, you're next to a box. Just put that in there. Keep those spots open for other items or ammo that you find. But I want to say Jill has like 2 extra item slots compared to Chris, which is a total, a sign that this game isn't accurate to reality. Because I don't think that there's any female on the planet would agree or attest that girls have more storage space in their clothing than men. Pockets on girls' clothing don't exist. They just don't. You would think that having Chris, he'd have all these he had cargo pants, pockets for days. So like he should be the one that has more. I don't know if you guys heard that, but he should be the one that has more storage space and not Jill. Now Chris does have more like hit points or health, so he could take a couple more bites. But one thing that the story did, it's a pretty basic story. It's like, hey, there are these murderers out in the woods. We're like a special, not SWAT team. We're stars. We're a group of ex-military guys that got together on the police force, and gosh darn it, we're awesome cops. But they sent Bravo team, and now you're the Alpha team because the Bravo team went missing. There's some bizarre attacks and murders happening around, and people are saying like, people are eating people and creatures. We don't know what's going on. Well, what the game does when you pick your character, you can either play as Chris or Jill, and that path that you go down in the game, you go down the same path. However, the characters that you interact with are different. Like for Jill, you have Barry. Barry's around, and he's like your right-hand guy. But with Chris, it's Rebecca, and she's from Bravo team. But you never encounter Rebecca as Jill or Barry as Chris. That's always was weird to me. The novelization of this game that came out found a way to bounce back and forth between the stories and tell both, and split some of the moments up between the two main protagonists, which I thought was really cool. But in this one, when you get the best ending of the game with one of your characters, the other character doesn't come out alive, even though RE2 says they do. So, it's almost like the Metal Gear Solid ending thing. Which one's you have two endings, but like which one is no, one of them is the canon one, and then we went forward. And this one, it's like both of them are canon. You just have to there's another person in the helicopter. We're just not going to show them to you. Essentially, the group goes into the mansion, and you find your way through. You find other Bravo team members. One by one, they slowly die. If you're playing as Jill, Barry acts weird. Turns out there's a traitor in the group, and it's Capitan Albert Wesker. And Wesker is working for a pharmaceutical company who also does bioweapon development, Umbrella. Now, Umbrella in this world is like basically a huge conglomerate company. They're a massive company. There's even in the opening intro cinematic or whatever, one of the first things that you see in RE2 is somebody stepping on a soda can that has Umbrella on it. Like, how far does their reach go? Is it just a pharmaceutical company? Do they have regular products? Are they like a pharmaceutical company that is essentially like Microsoft or Apple? So like, do they have like Umbrella phones or whatever? But Wesker threatens Barry's family. Barry's like, I'm gonna turn and be a bad guy. No, but with either character, you slowly make your way through the house with some boss fights. What I really like about the game is it's the slow progression thing. It's not quite what you would consider to be like a 3D Metroidvania style. It's not quite it, but there is a lot of backtracking, and you can only go into certain doors when you have certain keys. So it's like it is kind of that way when you stop and think about it, because Metroidvania, I can't go in here until I get this one item that I need in power or thing to progress forward. And this game kind of does that as well with its progression, but it's not a one-to-one comparison. The boss fights in the game featuring like a snake, a giant ass spider. So these are creatures that have been affected by the biological experiments that are going on here. And of course, all those regular zombies and dogs that you're running across, they've all been infected or experimented on, but either way, or or both. But then, of course, there's like other areas to explore. You have like a guardhouse, and you have where there's a plant little side thing. There's caves, and then ultimately underneath the mansion is like a giant lab where they do all these experiments and whatnot. However, the last boss is the Tyrant, the ultimate bioweapon tank, and Tyrant kills Wesker. You defeat Tyrant, and see, this is where the game kind of deviates. And what I assume what it means is because you can make certain choices where your character's partner, like Barry or Rebecca, won't survive, and that is something that they would carry forward into the next thing that we're going to talk about, the other version of the game. So like either Wesker survives, he's gone, he's missing, and he signals a self-destruct, or you actually do the self-destruct. Now see, that would be like a trope that would continue on for the next two games, where there would be a self-destruct. It was like, oh, it's the same thing again. Oh crap, we gotta get out of here before this place blows. And then you get the cinematic ending after you have a boss fight with the Tyrant that you can't beat with your conventional weapons. You have to wait until a rocket launcher is thrown at you. And you beat the game and you carry on. The game, however, after that, of course, you would have Resident Evil 2, 3, other games, right? But we're going to fast forward now just a little bit. And we're going to talk about this bad boy. They remade the game for the GameCube, and this was the beginning of an agreement with Capcom where they were going to be bringing the Resident Evil series to the GameCube exclusively. And it was a run where they made this game, Resident Evil 0, 4, as well as porting 2, 3, and Code Veronica to the GameCube. And it would be exclusive for probably about 3 or 4 years there. The remake, I'm just going to call it remake. The remake was developed by the same team that made the original game, and it was even directed by the same dude. I'm not good at pronouncing Japanese names. Shinji Mikami. There we go. Shinji Mikami. It wasn't that bad. Same dude directed it, and the thing is that there were a lot of things from the original game that got cut due to limitations, due to schedules to get this game finished and out. Of course, originally the original game started as kind of a sequel of sorts to like an NES game called like Sweet Home or something like that. And they had some ideas for it, but then of course another game inspired it with Alone in the Dark, right? I believe that's the name of the game. But it wouldn't be until the launch and release of Resident Evil that the term survival horror would be coined, and it would be the game that kind of started that. Even though there were some games that feel similar or in that same genre-esque, before that. But the remake, they were able to go in and add areas to the mansion, make it much bigger. So you had some element of familiarity, but also complete new areas. So it made you just a bit uncomfortable, but still on edge. Tension. The remake nailed tension. Bar none. I just replayed both of these. I played the first one and went right into the remake, and it nailed the tension 100%. What was really neat is that the backgrounds are still pre-rendered backgrounds like the original games, but because of that, they look so sharp, and then the 3D models look really good, and they don't look offset, whereas some games can look offset. These don't. The GameCube just wasn't capable of handling a full 3D model. We would see that, which is ironic, but we would see that actually done on a game release prior to this. I believe Code Veronica was the first game that actually did full 3D render. And that was on the Dreamcast. But for this one, I feel like it works. That mansion comes to life. And they made some changes with the gameplay. They added in like the little 360 spin that they gave you in Nemesis. They made it to where the lockpick doesn't have to be an item that's in your inventory. It can be kind of in RE2. They kind of started this where they have like lockpick or a lighter. So they do that with it. And also they added defense weapons, daggers or like little zappers or stun guns. So that way, if you get grabbed by an enemy, you can either have it automatically, zap them and hurt them, stun them, or you have to press a button to do it. But the main controls are pretty the same, which makes it feel they did such a good, faithful remake. There's a lot of games when they remake it, even in the modern sense. It's hard to recapture that magic, and I feel like maybe not the actual first, but this one set a new standard for what a remake should be. Because what this game looked and felt like what your memory feels like of the original. In our memories, games are always rose-tinted glasses or something like that, or nostalgia. But this game, it looks awesome. It feels awesome. The detail is ridiculous. They added a new enemy type. I'm not sure how much I like it. They added is like a mutation of the zombie. Once you defeat the zombie, it mutates into a Crimson Head. The only way to stop that is to shoot their heads off with a shotgun or a lucky shot with a pistol or the Magnum later on. Or to set their bodies on fire, because after they fall and, quote, die, they will just stay there for a certain amount of time. And they're if you'd never, they have a kerosene tanks or cans all like scattered throughout the different areas, and you have this little tank you can carry with you, and then you have a lighter, so you have 2 items, and you can hold 3 uses in the tank. And I want to say each big tank only has each time you fill it up, there's only 3 fill-ups before one's empty. But the Crimson Heads are faster. They take more shots to take down. They run, and they get like these claws things. And as I said, I'm not sure how I feel about that. I understand why they did it, and it was like another added dimension. But literally no other game in the series does this, even with like Zero, which is the prequel to this, or even going forward or anything like that. It's one of those weird additions where I feel like it's another level of planning or thought or strategy, because maybe even on other difficulties, you might not be able to get as many kerosene uses out of it. So you're like, okay, so this one I'm going to burn because I run through there a lot. This one over here I'm not even going to worry about because I think I only got to go in there one more time. But that's literally if you already know what you're doing. If you already know the layout. If you already know where to go and when. If this is your first time, you're going to be like, I got to burn everything. I don't want to fight one of those things again. One of the other things that they did with the remake was add story. In the original game, as I said, the story is pretty basic. You get some notes, you get some little nuggets of information that are from the researchers there or scientists. In this game, you actually get some background history between the Spencer family, who obviously owns this mansion, the connections with Umbrella, the people who built the mansion with the Spencer family. that like the Trevor family, that whole storyline is here, which I guess was cut in the original. But what it does is that you have a few run-ins with this Lisa Trevor character, who was a little girl who was experimented on back in the 60s and 70s. And see, a lot of that stuff is like extrapolated on a little bit more with the background and pre-RE1 stuff in Zero. That was the thing about Zero that I really liked the most, was that extra added story that they decided to put into the game. And they put some of that in here with the Trevor story. But Lisa Trevor, she's literally immune to damage. You can kind of stun her a little bit, shoot her a couple times to try and move around her. But literally, she's like shackled and she's hunched over, like really creepy and moaning a lot. I mean, we're not talking like a Mr. X or a Nemesis deal here. She doesn't follow you throughout the mansion. Although there is a mode, and I can't remember if it's in the original or if it's in the re-release of the remake. But there's one called One Dangerous Zombie, where it's like a Forrest, a member of Bravo team, is following you around as a Crimson Head. In fact, he might be Crimson Head. But if you shoot him, he's trapped with like explosives, and it'll blow up the damn mansion, and you will die. But there's a lot of challenges with it, like knife only, do this, no damage. A lot of people are way better at this game than me. The remake fixed a lot of the acting and the story with that, the voice acting. It's still a little cringy at points. It's not as bad. But there's definite moments within the story in the original and in the remake, especially like for Jill's. I'm specifically talking about Jill's story here. You have, as I said, Barry gets pressured into doing some stuff with Wesker and betraying the team. You get clues about this with the way he's acting. And in the remake, you get this really cool thing where Jill overhears Barry talking to somebody. And it's an instant hint that something's up with him. But literally, anytime that they have moments together, she never presses it. Even in the remake, when you have a boss fight with Lisa Trevor, where Barry is going to betray you. He already left you for dead, but you lived. And he tries to pull his gun on you, and then Jill smacks the shit out of him. You can choose to give him back the gun or not to help you with the fight. If you don't, then Barry dies, of course. And but if you do give it, then he does help you, and then you carry forward. He's like, I'll secure the escape route here. Wouldn't that be a good time to be like, why did you just pull your freaking gun on me? Instead, she's like, oh, okay, we'll keep going. I feel like that's kind of a head scratcher for good storytelling, just to kind of brush it off. But like everything else, like they added like a whole new area behind the mansion with like a graveyard. There's a whole other wing portion to the mansion to go into and check that out. Some areas have been completely redesigned. Some areas are almost a carbon copy. So you'll feel at home. You'll feel uneasy a little bit. And I feel like it's just the remake, as I said, it was the gold standard of what a remake should be. Definitely, if you're going for a slightly reimagined but faithful remake, because in my opinion, that title has now been taken away from it and given to another game, which I'll talk about later. But there's other versions of the game. The original game was ported to the DS for Deadly Silence. I never played that one. And I've never owned it. But I mentioned the Sega Saturn port. There was a failed Game Boy Color version out there that never came out. But the remake on the GameCube, a port of that was put onto the Wii, which I never played that because I don't want to play it on the Wii. However, it has been given an HD remaster. It was on the PS3, 360, and now it's available for Xbox One, PS4, and of course probably PC as well. And I actually do have a physical copy of the PS3 version, which is not available in the States. This was available, I believe, through Play Asia website, and it is not the Japanese version. It is like the Singapore version, because the Singapore version, there's a lot of English speaking there. So what? The case broken. Disc fell out. It's like attacking me. What I really like about this version, comes with 2 manuals, one in English, Glare, Resident Evil, and one in, that's the insert code, Japanese, Biohazard. And there's even, I'll actually take the disc out and not have it fall at me. There's that's the back. There's the front cover, Resident Evil. There's also a reversible cover for Biohazard, which I think is just awesome. This was like $40 to get this when it first came out, and there was absolutely no way I didn't jump all over this. As I said, I'm a huge fan of the original game. I don't have a Saturn because Saturn collecting in my area is non-existent. Number one, to find systems, I've only found a couple, and games is even worse because either you find the same repetitive sports games and Daytona Rally or whatever, Daytona Racing USA, or you find like these, I've come across, the Saturn version of Resident Evil, and it's like $55-$60, and I'm just like, oh man, as much as I would love to have it to complete the collection, I can't justify it. But there is now a physical copy on PS4 and Xbox One. It's called the Origins Collection, where you have Resident Evil 1 and 0 together. I don't have that one, but I do own both digitally now. Digital's becoming a little bit more prominent in my life. I'm more of a physical guy, a physical collector. But when it comes to certain games, especially if they have a good sale, because I want to say I got the digital version on PS4 of the remake on like a humble bundle for like $15. It was like that, Code Veronica X, Valkyria Chronicles. It was a bunch of other games. It was like a Capcom Sega deal. But because I already owned it, because that was before they released a physical copy, so then I had to wait until they put 0 on sale by itself for pretty cheap. And I don't really care to own another copy of 0 and have another copy of Remake, because I've got 2 here. No, I feel like the lasting legacy of Resident Evil, the very original game, obviously, it has been brought forward with the HD remaster of the remake, so that way the modern audience can still enjoy this game, because the remake is the bona fide way to play the game. But the original game has some cool characteristics to it. And if you can get a hold of the original game, if you can get a physical copy on a PS3, it'll play. Or I believe the PS3 store at this point is still up, and you can get the director's cut on there and play it for like, I don't know, $5 or $10, which isn't too terrible. I'm not sure where the market lies, because as I record this, we are in approaching the 1-year mark of being in a certain health crisis that I won't mention, but I'm talking about, ironically, in a series that involves biohazard developments and viruses and all that kind of jazz, right? Interesting, irony there. But there's a lot to talk about the making of the game, and I try to cover as much as I could. Mostly, it's like, I feel like after this, we got a surge of we had Silent Hill, we had another Alone in the Dark, we had Clock Tower, which was already out, but I mean, I feel like the original Resident Evil game kind of it didn't change those games. This game was inspired by other games, which has then in turn inspired a whole slew of other games into a genre that it just kickstarted, and it continued on and on and on and on, even until this day. As I said, throughout the years, there's been entries in this series that have gone away from that tension. But there's no way when you fire up Resident Evil 7 do you not feel tension. Like it is big, you know. So I think that's all I have gameplay wise. I've talked about almost all I can talk about, inventory spaces and tank controls. Tank controls, I haven't really touched on tank controls. They are an acquired taste, to say the least. So much frustration can be attributed to tank controls. You can get used to it, and obviously I did. I just played through both games, and 2, 3, and Code Veronica all have tank controls. After that, the overall style of the games would change considerably. But this was a series that has stayed with me all these years. I do consider myself kind of a lapsed fan because of the movies, because of the direction of the games that they went into. But then again, they brought it back around. When I first played 7, I'm like, what is this? How is this Resident Evil? Is this a reboot? And it wasn't a reboot. That blew my mind at the end. Which that's a different game. It's a different deep dive. So for the first game, I feel like I think I've said enough because the story would be kind of extrapolated on. I do plan on doing the Resident Evil 2 and 3 because much like this game, I can look at the original game and have direct comparisons to a remake. So I can talk about 2 versions of the same game. I will not be covering 4, 5, 6, and 7 at this point, or Code Veronica, especially Code Veronica. Code Veronica is one I played the least out of all of them, probably other than 6. But Code Veronica was one that obviously I wasn't able to play it for a long time, and by the time it came out on the PS2, I already kind of moved on from the series. So I do have it, and I can talk about it at some point. But for the foreseeable future, for the Deep Dive series, will be RE2, and then RE3 Nemesis, and then we're going to go off and play some other stuff and talk about those games. In closing, Resident Evil 1 set me on a path. I got it very early on, as I said, in my PlayStation days, and it became a cornerstone. I eventually would get the other Resident Evil games. But this game, even though I said 2 started it, and 2 is a phenomenal game, better than this game. This game actually holds a more closer piece of my heart because it is so good and so bad at the same time. And I would recommend everybody go check it out, especially if you have access to the original. Go ahead and do it. It's got character, and it's interesting. But no, that remake is like all these years later. What that remake came out in 2002. My gosh, 2002. So at this, we're almost 20 years. Almost 20 freaking years since since remake. Gosh. And okay, so it's 2021. In 5 years it'll be 30 years since the original. If you're listening to this and now you feel old, I guess you're welcome, and I'm sorry at the same time. I hope you enjoyed this episode. More to come, as I said, with the sequels, and more to come here on the show as well. Yeah, check out the show if you have not done so. Subscribe on your favorite podcast service. We're also on YouTube, video version. You can see my face and see me talking about stuff. And then, if I'm going to cover games, I usually have them in my collection. Something like this is really cool because I could show off some of my weird versions of Resident Evil that I have. But until then, I've been Brando. You've been the audience, and I thank you for listening. And I'll catch you guys next time. Game on, guys.